Hey, folks, this is Rabble Rouse and Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Tornado, Tony Pennick.
And second, Tom Paget. Okay. Dusted up, polished crystal ball.
All right, well, nobody could have
Tom, I think you
predicted.
need a crystal ball for this weekend. It's a big weekend.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, and I'm ready.
Nobody could have
Okay.
predicted last week's developments in the UFC. I was contemplating having to go in and edit the show from last week to explain what happened, because it really all supposedly went down on Friday night, although there's been a lot of speculation that it was planned and maybe, the fighters knew about this beforehand, at least. Some people say the UFC set it up, but I don't believe it. They're not that good.
No,
So-
I agree.
So, bottom line is, they had to change 3 fights. 6 people got different opponents. And all because Khamzat Chimaev decided to be a fat pig and come in overweight. And this is the most mysterious part of it for me. Supposedly he was seen out and about with all his buddies eating and drinking the night before the weigh-ins. And then apparently there's a couple different stories. Doctor stopped him was one story. Another story is his own coach stopped him from cutting weight, because he said, he didn't supposedly say this, he did say this, he wanted to die in battle, not in bed. So he supposedly was so close to death that they stopped him from continuing to cut weight. But there's a lot of theories out there that actually say that Khamzat respects Nate and didn't want to do that to him. So he wanted to purposely get another opponent. That's why he came in overweight. And I don't know. It's something to me tells me if there's some nefarious going on there, they planned it. It would have been the fighters to do it, because the fighters were so pissed off that a guy like Nate Diaz, who had just done so much for the UFC, was getting screwed. So if anything, like, they had a little coup that the UFC covered up, and they just kind of made it look like they
Well,
said.
what do you think about maybe Khamzat had some second thoughts about it? Is it going to be an easy fight? What do you think?
I don't know. I think he was
Maybe he had.
he's going in as, like, the guy everybody loves to hate anyway. He's mowing people down, and then, like, even people were even saying, like, Kevin Holland's got in a fight with him on purpose. Like, I don't know about that, but just the way it all worked out was pretty crazy, and he got the easiest opponent out of everybody that had to switch. If you look at the fights that happened, definitely. And it just was not a good matchup. I mean, he didn't like it. Holland didn't like it. But it was a great matchup for Nate Diaz to be able to fight another guy who he called an OG of the sport, which is a perfect description. It's been around forever, just like him. And just a beautiful fight. Unfortunately, obviously, for his opponent, but Nate Diaz sunk in the choke at the end and got the win. And if there weren't enough conspiracy theories before the fight, after the fight, when everybody realized that that Tony Ferguson got submitted at 2 minutes and 9 seconds, 209 area code, which is Nate Diaz's thing. He's always saying. Now they really got
these people.
Theories.
So I guess the conspiracy theory was Khamzat's going to finish Nate Diaz in the first minute, and that wouldn't look good. So we got to change everything around and then rig it so it ends at 2 minutes and 9 seconds. These people are nuts. That's why I emailed you. I had to get off the forum. I had to shut it down.
Yeah.
These people are out of their minds. God.
It's funny. It's really funny.
And I think Dana summed it up. He said, "You've got a lot of tough guys here, maybe from crazy backgrounds. How do you get all these guys to agree to one giant conspiracy like that and not say anything? How do you hurt a bunch of cats?" that's what it would be like. Hey guys, here's what we're going to do. It's crazy.
So bottom line, it was a great main event. I loved it. You know, I thought it was kind of funny that everybody's like, all the announcers were like, "What is he doing?" Like when Nate Diaz would go over to the edge of the cage and just kind of like wait, like he's waiting for the bus. Because he was getting leg kicks so much, you know. And I'm like, have you guys seen this dude fight before? Have you seen his brother? Like, what are you asking? What is he doing for? Obviously, he's taking a break. But then to come back and submit him after that, I mean, I was just classic Nate Diaz. And, you know, the line that comes to mind that everybody's going to remember him for is, you know, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers. So, yeah, he got the win. He went out with a bang. He even actually thanked the Fertittas, or actually not just the Fertittas, Lorenzo Fertitta in particular. Lorenzo did more than Frank did for the UFC. He was more hands-on anyway. Not about money-wise. Frank, I think, is the richer of the two because he's always had the more senior position in the company. And he was the first one to be able to take over the casinos, so I think he's got a little bit more saved up. But anyway, Lorenzo had a little bit more of a hands-on role with the UFC. He was the point man when they did the big interview about fighter pay. You know, so it was kind of interesting to see that Nate Diaz, gave a big shout out to him and thanked him, and actually admitted that he had a love-hate relationship with the UFC. And then he said he might come back after he goes and shows some other people in some other sports how it's done. Which to me screams out for BKFC Nate Diaz versus Mike Perry. I'm calling it now. I'm calling it. It's in my crystal ball. But yeah, it was a much talked about fight, and everybody won with that main event, except for Tony Ferguson. But even he was like, "I'm back!" after the fight, which definitely inspired a lot of memes. Crazy memes. Anyway. So Ferguson, not a good night for him, but he started off really well. He was really punishing Diaz's legs with those leg kicks. And that's why I say, BKFC for Nate Diaz. No leg kicks in that shit. None at all. Nothing to worry about there. But Khamzat Chimaev did what he does. Came in, absorbed 0 strikes, everybody's talking about. But took out Kevin Holland pretty quickly with a Bravo choke, they call it. Darce choke is what they were calling it when it was happening. Bravo thing. I guess I haven't done jiu-jitsu. So, 2 minutes and 13 seconds into the fight. It was mostly wrestling before that. Not a lot of heavy strikes. Daniel Rodriguez and Jin Liang Lee was the other one that had to be rearranged, and that was very, 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 very controversial. As well as was Jin Liang Lee's blue suit. Everybody wanted him to be able to wear his blue suit, and he was pissed that he didn't get to wear it to the press conference. But he wore it after the fight, and everybody was cool about it. But not happy about this one. A lot of fans, a lot of people watching just did not agree that Daniel did enough to win the fight. So I believe they're going to try to rematch this one. I think they pretty much both agreed to it. And then the freak show ending of the night happened in fight number 10. Irene Aldana was getting pretty handled by Macy Chiasson. And she was on the ground, getting thrown around, getting smacked. And Macy Chiasson took a kick from Irene. I don't know, how do they pronounce it in Israel? I mean, it's in Israel. In Brazil. Irene. Not Irene. I always want to call it Irene, because of all the cadences in the military. Irene, she's one of the best. Every night I give her the test. No, this is Irene, they call her. Irene Aldana. She hit this girl with an up kick to the body. Now, I've seen fights end from up kicks to the head. I have never, ever, 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 ever seen an up kick to the body end a fight. That's what
right
happened.
to the liver.
Yeah.
Right to the liver.
Yeah. Put Macy on the ground, and she basically tapped out verbally. It was over. And Tom's crystal ball was right on Johnny Walker. I don't think it was the THC that saved him, but Iwan, there's another weird pronunciation. Iwan Cutelaba was doing fairly well for a little while, and then just got caught. Johnny Walker is lanky, tall. He can do these submissions, and he ended up getting the rear naked choke on him. And that was
well, you know, Johnny Walker's off that CBD now. You know, so maybe he's revised his career.
He was
You
immediately.
know, one fight doesn't make a career, but we'll see what happens.
I don't think the UFC really appreciated it, or maybe they thought he lost because they ushered him immediately out of the stadium. I don't know if you heard about this, Tom. They took him right out.
Yeah, that was cold.
No shoes, nothing. They kicked him right the fuck out after he won his fight.
Wow.
So he got thrown out of the stadium, and he's like walking around. He had to go back to his hotel in his fight shorts and no shoes. I still have not had any explanation given to me or found online anything to describe why he was thrown out. But apparently it was not by the UFC. It was by the venue for some reason. So we still don't know. I have no explanation. I don't know if you've heard anything. I don't know if your crystal ball can tell you those sort of things, Tom, or if it's just fight results. But you need to ask it. That was a weird one.
That was just, I'll tell you what my crystal ball tells me, what the horoscope tells me. This is Mercury retrograde. And what that is, it's an optical illusion that the planet seems to slow down, stop, and reverse. It gets into some third orbital stuff.
Yeah.
But the point is that affects communications. That's the theory. And I think we really seen it this last weekend.
Yeah.
Breakdown
I
in
unfortunately
communications everywhere.
picked Macy on the card I needed her to win. And E1, I had on a bunch of cards. I really thought he was going to wipe the floor with Johnny Walker, but did not. Julian Erosa I was smart enough to pick. I should have bet on him because he was a deep underdog. And I knew he was going to win. Knew it. I didn't know how, but I knew he was going to win. Jailton Almeida, he was a slam dunk pick. Had him in the MVP slot. Got the rear naked choke 4 minutes and 27 seconds into the fight. Dennis Talulin, that was the one that was going to be the hardest to pick, I think, on this whole card. Over Jamie Pickett, got the knockout. Pickett was doing great up until that point, too. It was very easy to fight. And Chris Barnett, I got lucky. I picked him on a good card. Good lineup. I didn't make a lot of money or anything. But you needed to have him as somebody got a knockout. He beat Jake Collier by TKO after Jake was whipping his ass pretty good. And Chris was so beat up that the announcers thought he had broken his jaw the way he was talking and moving his lower jaw. So, I mean, you talk about a knockdown, drag out, heavyweight fight all over the place. I don't know if either guy knows the definition of a salad. Chris Barnett came in overweight for heavyweight, which is very rare. It's hard to do, hard feat to master. But he did it. But he just gave a rousing speech at the end.
Rich, when we saw that,
Yeah, go ahead.
when I saw your email last week and you're like, failed to make weight, I'm like, heavyweight. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I never heard it. And then I realized, and then what actually made me realize it was 10 years or so ago when Brock Lesnar was, in the UFC, and they're like, he's got to get down to because he was always around 280
Yeah.
something. He's got to get around to 260, 265, and I'm like, wait, they got a weight limit at heavyweight? I'm like, I'd never heard of that. Yeah. So first then I was like, then it made sense. I was.
Yeah. Yeah, so Chris Barnett was a good pick. He not only gave a good speech, he was double fisting the beers on the way out. I don't know how good of a look that was for the UFC, but oh man, after a guy just got a concussion, throwing down the drinks. There was also a story that he was left at the hospital without transportation. He was supposed to just go in for a checkup, and they left him there. Just left him hanging. I don't know what that was all about. Never heard any of this stuff, but it's just a scuttlebutt. But he got the knockout in the second round. And then before that, another girl I picked correctly, Norma Dumont over Danielle Wolf. Danielle actually had a boxing career and almost went to the Olympics, but they just didn't add her weight for some reason. But she did not look good striking. Norma just picked her apart, striking and jiu-jitsu wise. Just totally mastered that fight. Did not get the finish, but boy, Danielle Wolf was taller, had better reach, and just looked like she was a midget in there. I don't know what happened to the striking skills. She just had no confidence and really wasn't using her jab well. I was kind of shocked. But had a lot of hype going in. Before that, we had a bantamweight fight. Haiti Alatang over Chad Alliger. Analiger. Unanimous decision. Elise Reed over Melissa Martinez. Before that, unanimous decision win. And then Johan Lainez over Darian Weeks was a split decision win. And then we have this weekend, Fight Night 210. UFC only action in town. No Bellator, no One Championship, no PFL, just UFC this week. Corey Sandhagen in the main event against Yadong Song. Sandhagen 14-4. Yadong Song 19-6-1. And then we got Chidi Njokuani, co-main event, 22-7, fighting Gregory Rodriguez, 12-4 at middleweight. Andre Feely, 21-9, fighting Bill Algeo, 16-6 at featherweight. Joseph Pfeiffer, 9-2 at middleweight, fighting Alan Amadovsky, who's 8-3. We got Tanner Boser, 20-8 at heavyweight, fighting Rodrigo Nascimento, who's 8-1. Anthony Hernandez in the ninth fight of the night, 9-2 at middleweight, fighting Marc-Andre Barriel, who's 14-5. Damon Jackson, 21-4-1 at featherweight, fighting Pat Sabatini, who's 17-3. That is a lot of experience for featherweight, both guys. Bantamweights. Aspen Ladd, 9-3, fighting Sarah McMahon. Haven't seen her in a while. She is 13-6. Bantamweight. Trevin Giles, 14-4 at welterweight, fighting Ruiz Kosuke, who is 7-1. And Denise Gomez, 6-1 at strawweight, fighting Kronklak Supisara, 6-3 at strawweight. Trey Ogden, 15-5, fighting Daniel Zellhuber, who is 12-0. Maria Agapova, 10-3 at flyweight, fighting Jillian Robertson, who is 10-7. And Tony Gravely, 23-7, fighting Javid Basharat, 12-0, undefeated at bantamweight. First fight of the night, Nicholas Mata, 12-4 at lightweight, fighting Cameron Van Camp, who is 15-6-1. go to boxing. The big results last week were none. There was no fights. Not one fight.
Yeah.
No. Montreal, we had some fights last Friday worth mentioning. According to Box Rec, this is the only one except for last Wednesday. No, this is tonight. Tomorrow night. The results it shows for Box Rec, the one they show is tonight, tomorrow. The scheduled fight, not the results. So it's taking us back to Wednesday, the 14th, to go to 4-star plus fights for results, and we'll go to 3-star plus fights. But Julius Ballo, 29-6, beat Jamal Harvey last Wednesday. 52-4 was Harvey's record. Won by split decision. Ballo. That's it. Since Ruiz, that's all it's telling us was good. Alright, we'll go 2. 2 stars. What do we miss? Nothing. No, it's going to give us something. No. Alright. We gotta go ahead. Telling us fuck the results. Let's see what we got coming up. I know a new fight was signed. Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder. Big heavyweight fight was signed to happen.
Really? I heard they were talking about that. I did not know it was signed.
I'm pretty sure it was done. Signed, sealed, and delivered. I think they even have a date for October. But I'm not exactly sure on that one. But yeah, it's an interesting fight, because you've got obviously natural talent and power from Ruiz, not necessarily either guy known for their good cardio and going long distance, but Ruiz just went the distance, looked halfway decent, and you have the Deontay Wilder coming off a long layoff.
Yeah,
it's a great matchup. Great matchup. Can the guy with no reach beat the guy with incredible reach? I mean, there's just so many dynamics.
They talk about, sometimes like crossroad fights. And this is a quintessential crossroad fight. Because Wilder is an opponent, like, he's extremely dangerous because of his punching power. That is such a wild card with him that he might be the hardest puncher in history. He's like a heavyweight Julian Jackson, that he can knock you cold with one punch. Scary power. Yeah. But the thing is, he's so flawed at the same time. So he is a high-risk, high-reward type of opponent. Anytime you get in there with him, there's a tremendous risk because of his power. At the same time, he is vulnerable as well, where you can hit him and you can make him look foolish, you can make him look bad, and then just try to avoid his power. Ruiz is a guy that we've seen in the first Joshua fight. He had to get off the canvas, which he did, and then in the second fight, he was so out of shape, he couldn't do anything because Joshua was fighting smart, and he didn't have he was being hindered by his own bulk. Now, his fight a couple weeks ago with Luis Ortiz, he took some shots in that fight. He took them well, but he did get hit with some shots where it's like, Ortiz is a good puncher, not a great puncher. What would have happened if that was Deontay Wilder landing his punches? Yeah. So this is a crossroads fight, which in a way does make sense for both guys. Wilder, he obviously wants big fights right now. He's, coming up to the tail end of his career. Would people pay to see him fight Fury again? Not right now. He's got to earn that. So a guy like Ruiz,
Fury
a former champion.
Fury versus Tyson. I mean, Tyson Fury versus what's his name? Joshua is pretty much a done deal at this point.
I did hear that. I heard because they said Fury gave Usyk like an ultimatum. He gave him a timeline, and I guess the Usyk camp did not respond in time. So Fury turned around and said, "You know what? Let's have the All England fight."
Yeah. I mean, everybody's calling for
well,
that.
in a way, it's funny because he's fighting the guy that just lost basically his last two fights. But
Looks like the title eliminator.
like it would bring them more money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on. Who is not going to be watching that? And Tony, I love your phrase. He was hindered by his own bulk. Sounds like the title of the song or verse of the song. Yeah, hindered by my own bulk.
Yeah.
I love that, buddy. That was classic. Yes, sir.
You know, it reminds me of a fighter, and I know he actually communicates a lot with Trisha Morrison, who always seemed to be hindered by his own bulk, and that was Joe Hip, about 30 years ago. I always
remember
liked
that.
Joe Hip.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Joe Hip was always in better shape than he looked. He always looked like he was flabby, right? I remember when he was fighting Tommy Morrison, and he gave Tommy a hell of a fight. He broke his jaw. It was like, okay, Joe Hip always looked fat. He always looked out of shape. He weighed less than Morrison did that fight. He was like a sub 220, but he still looked like he was flabby. He was a guy that no matter what he did, he could do a billion crunches. His body would not let him be ripped. I know. Trust me, I had the same problem. But there were times like I remember his manager said one time. He goes, despite his bulk, he moves a lot better than most heavyweights. And I always compare him to Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is never going to be six-pack. But at the same time, when he is extremely heavy, his movement and his hand speed, because he lives off his movement and his hand speed, that's diminished. And when you do that, you're basically hindered by your own bulk. Well, some guys are the opposite. I'll tell you who was a prime example was George Foreman. Because George Foreman was so heavy-handed and he was so good at putting his weight behind punches. Foreman at 260 was devastating because he was never built off speed or movement. He was built off a extremely heavy jab and powerful right hand, left hook. Now, he wasn't as wild and flailing as he was early in his career when he was 220 pounds, but at 160, he was very methodical. And he very ponderous movement, 1-2, and he fought off his strength. So Foreman at 260 was effective. A guy like Ruiz, the heavier he gets, is ineffective because he's predicated on movement and hand speed.
Well,
Yeah, good point.
boxing lesson here. I almost called John Scully Rain Man today.
That's why you keep me,
Tony.
keep me around.
I almost had to call John Scully Rain Man today because he started talking about how he remembered all 74 of his amateur fights. And I was going to do a meme on it and everything because it was so funny to me. It just automatically put the picture of Rain Man in my head.
Knowing John from interviewing him, we've interviewed him 4 or 5 times maybe, from talking to him on Facebook, from reading some of the things that he's written, talk about a guy that, really he has a knack for it because he has such a great memory, but he also has that subtle sense of humor in there where he'll write things and he'll give you like these little anecdotal stories where it's like, oh my God, and he takes you like you're there with him, but he brings you some of the humor being on the road. I remember the one time he has a picture, and it was a picture of Chad Dawson as a kid, teenager in a hotel room, and they're taking a picture of Chad, and you see a stream of water coming from a super soaker, and they're like, this was the moment right before Chad got hit with a stream of water. Stuff like that. It really says, like, it gives you, like, behind. And John, like I said, reading the stuff that he writes is, I mean, really, enjoyable and insightful. Because one, I said he's a good writer. Two, he makes you feel like you're there, and he really touches the fine little points. So, for him saying he can remember all 74 of his amateur fights, I believe it, and he remembers every one of his pro fights too. He'll tell you the scorecards, the referees, where they were, what song was playing on the radio.
Uh-huh. Basically. Yeah, it's good stuff. And I'm going to see him this weekend. If all goes well. We'll see.
Are you going to be in New York this weekend?
No, Boston.
Boston, that's right.
He's having a little reunion at 3 o'clock. I'm having a little reunion at 6 o'clock, 20 minutes away. So, I'll hit that for a couple hours, and then I'll go to mine. It's a reunion of my wrestling. Old Colony co-champs. Old Colony League from high school. We had quite a few good years. I never went to states or anything, but even wrestling beyond my actual weight, about by 10 pounds or so, I managed to get 5th place in the sectionals after losing a tooth just about to an illegal knee. Yeah, it was crazy. But no, I think I need the guy. He chopped the arm and punched me in the face. I don't know how it happened. It was crazy. It was a rough day. It's rough enough when you have just one match, when you're overweight. I mean, when you're underweight. You have to wrestle heavier guys. But, when you got like 4 matches in one day, it's a little bit worse. And then I had to watch our captain lose in the sectional finals to a guy that I had bumped up to face and beaten. I was like, what the hell? Or no, he had gotten bumped up to me because he was at 160, which was like my natural weight. And he got bumped up to 171, and I just wiped him out with him. And I gave the kid advice, our captain, before the finals, to shoot for the guy's legs. And he was one of those guys that liked to put the legs in. That's all he did the entire fight, was try to put the legs in, and it just didn't do him any good. Did not win him enough points. And he ended up losing by like 2 points. Yep, that's a takedown. That's what you should have been doing. Trying to let him up, take him down. No, it doesn't go out that way. But anyway, yeah, we're going to be getting together, and one of the guys actually, it's going to be interesting to talk to because he went and started doing all kinds of stuff around West Point Military Academy. And he had no background in the military. So, he was one of our other captains that sent me to the hospital once at practice. Really great wrestler. He himself had some medical issues all the time with his hip. He had a bad hip, so he's always having hip injuries. Which is really, really hard when you're a wrestler. I mean, you really need the hips. So, but I'm hoping his hip is really bad now, so like I can put him in the hospital Saturday and we'll be even. No. I'm real curious to talk to him about the West Point experience because I almost actually got an Army scholarship. I didn't get accepted to West Point. I got accepted to Air Force Academy, but West Point rejected me and gave me an Army scholarship. It's like, yeah, you're almost good enough. You can have an Army scholarship in any other school. You can't get to West Point. Which is ironic because then I ended up going to Norwich University, which is founded by the guy who tried to steal West Point. Literally tried to steal the school from the government, basically. And then he just remade it up in Vermont. Very interesting story if you really get into it, but we don't have enough time. The other thing that's crazy is like the same weekend is homecoming weekend at Norwich. And so the other day I got one of those letters that the school sends out to you trying to get you to give money, And it's the new president of the school, and he addresses it to me, hi Richard, obviously that's easily done, but it's a form letter, so he's not really like talking about anything specific to me. But then all of a sudden, in the middle of it, there's the picture of the guy who just started the new Norwich Boxing Club, and he's like, "Oh yeah, and he got it all through donations." And I'm like, thinking, this is like when you go on Facebook and you see something that you just clicked on 2 days ago and bought. It's back up in an ad in front of you. So you feel like you're being targeted. So he wants me to give $50 in the thing, and I'm like, well, geez, this is like probably the first ever time that I thought, well, gee, I really need to give money to Norwich. You did a good job of targeting me, if it really was, but I think everybody got the same letter. It's just that, the boxing thing is very new and popular, and they've already actually had some competition, so hey, that was cool. And I will be giving my $50. I'm really going to do it. I'm probably even going to make a meme about it for our little group. I can afford it. And I'm not going to be going up there for alumni weekend and doing the registration, which I would have paid $60 for anyway. So whatever. Definitely going next year, though. And one of my friends on Facebook actually started Monday. And, they call it Alumni Week. Not a lot of people go up for the entire week. Most people have jobs. But, yeah, some people do. And my friend Jason Stump went up there for the entire week. And not only did he, meet up with friends and stuff like that and go see the sights around Vermont, but he actually sat in on classes, which I never thought to do. Like, that is genius. I could just go up for the entire week and just be like, all right, what am I going to major in this week? Just get an honorary degree. I don't know. That actually means something because you sat in on enough classes. Yes, geez, you could go to a lot if you really tried. Steal someone's schedule. I don't know, but yeah, that's a great idea. But yeah, he's been up there all week and posting stuff. And kind of makes me feel like I'm there already. A lot of people are kind of getting ready to go. Friday is really the day that everybody starts going up there, and then everybody wants to be there for Saturday's game. And hardly anybody's left on Sunday unless they're hungover. All right, so. For fights in boxing, we have ESPN Plus has a card tomorrow night, headlined by Aslan Makhmudov, who's 14-0, and Carlos Takam, who's 39-6-1. That's a heavyweight fight. A couple titles, 3 titles on the line. WBC Silver Heavyweight, North American Boxing Association Heavyweight, and the North American Boxing Federation Heavyweight title. Going to win it? We don't know. And then in Kempton Park, somewhere in Africa, we have Kevin Lorena, 27-1 at heavyweight, fighting Marius Wack, who is 36-8 for the IBO Intercontinental Heavyweight title. Every time I hear Intercontinental, I always think of WWE, Tony. Intercontinental Champion. Back when I watched it, it was the guy that used to shake the ropes. What was his name?
What, the wrestler?
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior.
Yes, the Ultimate Warrior was always the Intercontinental Champion.
The one you for Halloween.
Yeah.
I killed it.
So, we also have some UK fights we're talking about here. A couple titles. Commonwealth Boxing Council lightweight title and the BBC British lightweight title. Craig Woodruff, 12-6 at lightweight, fighting Gavin Gwynn, who's 15-2. Woodruff is 12-6. And then the big ones. Another slow week for boxing, except for this card.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It's going to be on the zone, of course, because they've got Saul locked down for quite a while. Saul Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin. And they got 100 fights between them. 57-2-2 for Saul Alvarez, and Gennady 42-1-1.
So we were discussing this fight last week, and obviously we're going over what we think and what we think it's going to be. If you look at their history of their fights, now you're going back. These guys fought 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
They fought 2 times. I think it was 17 and 18, maybe, or 16 and 17.
17 and 18.
17 and 18, okay. It was consecutive Septembers. So the one rematch was going to be in May, but then they had the whole tainted beef thing or something like that. So it was September and September. And September 17, you're watching the fight, and it's Golovkin won this fight. Easy. 9 rounds to 3, 10 rounds to 2 maybe. He controlled the action. He controlled it with a heavy jab. He backed Canelo up. Golovkin definitely won this fight. It's a draw. That seems kind of weird. Okay, Vegas judging. So, by them giving it a draw, Golovkin won that fight. So then you have the rematches a year later. And it's a closer fight. I still felt Golovkin won the fight maybe 7 rounds to 5, maybe 8 rounds to 4. But it was a much closer fight. Canelo wins this one. I didn't think he won the fight. He did have more impactful offense in this one, but I still felt Golovkin controlled it with a heavy jab. Now, I'm going to use this word a ton tonight. It's wild card. Not Freddie Ruiz's wild card Jim.
Huh.
But this fight's going to come down to a couple things in my mind. One of them being Golovkin's age. He is now over the age of 40. Now, he's always been in tremendous shape, and he's always, had fights where you can never say he took a lot of punishment to his body, because he was one usually dishing it out. So, I'm sorry, I just got a text message. I was laughing. So, Golovkin's never taken a tremendous amount of punishment, but the thing is, time is undefeated.
Right.
Now, the other wild card is Canelo's mindset after that loss to Bivol, because he was really run roughshod in that fight. Bivol backed him up. Bivol hit him with some solid shots. Bivol hit him up. And now, how do you come back mentally, in your next fight, which is only 4 months later? The other question with Canelo is he going to adopt a better training method? A lot of people, myself included, were critical of his decision to go with a strict vegan diet going into that fight. He looked lethargic. He looked weak. And I don't think he was at peak performance, especially at a heavier weight. And it reminds me back 20 years ago when they were doing the middleweight title tournament, and they had William Joppy fighting Felix Trinidad and Bernard Hopkins fighting Keith Holmes. And Hopkins, and he would be the master of getting into a guy's head and really trashing him a little bit. And they're talking, and there's one press conference, and they're talking about Keith Holmes' vegan diet. Now, Hopkins is a smart guy. Obviously, he knows what a vegan diet is. But he starts questioning him. Vegan diet? What's that? Well, what do you eat? Tofu. Tofu? Whoa. You're going to fight me and you're eating tofu? Son, get the ring with me. You need some iron in that blood. You better be starting eating some nails if you think you're going to get in the ring with me. And in a way, Bernard was making a great point. Because, hey, nothing against vegans. It's something that I couldn't do. I had steak for lunch today and chicken for dinner tonight. I'm a protein guy. But there's something where, like, you look at those people, a lot of them always seem like emaciated. They seem like their skin is always pale. They're always cold. You know, hey, do what you got to do. Make yourself happy. But I don't think that puts you at peak performance level, and I don't think Canelo was at peak performance level in that fight with Beeble. I think Canelo will come out with a better game plan, and his youth is going to be the difference in this fight. Golovkin will
What
have his
about the talent
moments.
level that he's fought in recent years?
Canelo will stand up to it, and I think it's going to be a clear Canelo discipline fight.
All right. So first of all, I agree. Second of all, I want to count the amount of fights that I'm looking at here that have been in front of us. Saul Canelo Alvarez since the last Gennady Golovkin fight. That would be Rocky Fielding, number 1, Daniel Jacobs, number 2, Sergey Kovalev, number 3, Callum Smith, number 4, Abney Yildirim, number 5, Billy Joe Saunders, number 6, Caleb Plant, number 7, and Dimitri Bivol, number 8. So many people Gennady Golovkin has fought since the last fight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Half as many. And not only half as many, but really incomparable as far as name recognition, ability, really. I mean, he's fought for some titles here and there. Ryoto Murata, though, I mean, 16-2, compared to some of these absolute warriors, like, undefeated guys. Caleb Plant, undefeated, 21-0. Dimitri Bivol, undefeated, 19-0. Billy Joe Saunders, 30-0. And this last fight is guy with 2 losses. Forget about it. Yeah, I don't think Canelo really has much to worry about, but Gennady could break a rib. I'll give him that. I'll give him that ability.
Gennady's a hell of a puncher, so...
Gets those body shots really ripping. And gets Canelo in a corner somewhere where he can't get out. We could see a miracle. Not really a miracle, but we could see a puncher's chance win there for Gennady. But I think Saul's going to play it smart, whether he comes in like tip-top shape or not. He's going to have the confidence knowing that he won the last one. And I think it's just it's going to be a coast for him. Like you said, age is a factor, and then I just look at the strength of competition and the amount of competition. Not only is Dimitri kind of picking his fights, not Dimitri, Gennady, picking his fights, not selecting world beaters, but it's just, he hasn't fought in Vegas since he fought Alvarez. Fought in New York and Hollywood, in Japan. And only has 2 knockouts. Well, 3, I guess. Stuck down in 7th, and 9th, and the 4th in those 4 fights. And Sergey Derevyanchenko, he was only 13-1, and he went to unanimous decision with him back in 2019. Steve Rolls, 19-0. Yeah, he was undefeated, but how many people have heard of Steve Rolls? 163. I don't know. Camille Cesarmurata, never heard of him. 21-0. Ryoto Murata, barely heard of him, just because I just mentioned him. Yeah, you can't compare those to the people those guys to the people that Saul Alvarez has been fighting. And he doubled the amount of action in that time. So yeah. Gennady's not Dimitri Bivol. He might be able to learn a little bit from him and make it interesting. I think if it goes past 10, it's in Vegas, so decision-wise, I mean, you automatically kind of have to give it to Saul if it's going to be a close fight, because the Vegas connection should give it to him. The zone will buy it for him. But yeah, also on that Canelo Alvarez Gennady Golovkin card, we have Jesse Rodriguez Franco undefeated at 16-0, fighting Israel Gonzalez for the WBC World Super Flyweight title. Gonzalez 28-4-1, and ranked number 18. Franco is number 4. We got number 48 at super middleweight, Ali Akhmedov, 18-1, fighting Gabriel Rosado, who's 26-15. Boy, lost 4 of his last 6. It sounds like a tune-up fight, but it's for a title. How do you fight with a record like that for a title? IBF North American Super Middleweight title. Vacant. Oh shit. Austin Williams also on the card at middleweight. This is a much better fight on paper. Austin is 11-0. Kieran Conway is his opponent, 18-2-1. That one's for the WBA International Middleweight title. So a way better sanctioning body than somebody that would a group that would let Gabriel Rosado with a 26-15-1 record fight for a title. Where's John Scully? Next week we got a little bit more action. We got Shakur Stevenson fighting. Did we even talk about your boy Tank last week, Tom? I mean, Tony?
No, we didn't. Like I said, I didn't get to go to that fight. I did. It was funny, that night I put it on Facebook Live, and literally I got to see one round before Hank dropped the bomb on him.
Yeah. Might not be roofing much these days. He's actually got another fight already lined up, I believe. Joey DeWaco.
Yeah, in a couple weeks, in 3 weeks. Back at the
another buddy of yours, I just saw on Facebook post something about him possibly having a fight coming up. Hank Lundy. We thought he was retired too.
Yeah, saw that too.
Joey DeWaco, yeah, he took out Terrell Jamal Woods. No, that's his next opponent. Terrell Jamal Woods, 28-53-9 in Bensalem. That's his next opponent. Mike Marshall was the guy who TKO'd in the 4th.
Yeah. And Mike Marshall is a tough fighter. He's a guy that's going to give you some rounds. He's going to press you. I mean, I saw him fight Sonny Conter last year, and he I think Sonny took him out in the 3rd round, but he was like fighting him tough before he finally got caught with like a left hook and then a right hand to put him out. The other night when he was fighting Joey, like I said, I just clicked onto the Facebook live stream, and there was a clash of heads. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th round. It was a clash of heads, and then Joey was starting to really throw some big left hooks. So whenever Marshall would like try to duck down, Joey was catching him with a check hook to the body, and then a check hook, like almost like a hook uppercut, like that Donovan Razor Ruddock punch. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, he turned it over. So instead of like a hook uppercut, he turned it into just a straight left check hook and caught Marshall right on the chin and put him down. Nice. And Marshall should have already got up, but he was facing the wrong way, like he was not even looking at the referee. He was walking into the corner. The referee was like, "Yeah, I think you've had enough."
Mm-hmm. You're all done. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's it for results and schedule. Oh, Professional Fighters League has signed the grandson of Muhammad Ali, Ali Walsh, Diageo Ali Walsh. signed with professional fighters. It's not the same guy that's knocking people out in boxing, is it? Grandson too, right? Different grandson. Alright. Just checking my daily Google alerts. See if I missed any new stories. Story about the grandson. Okay, boxing. Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford agreed to terms for potential November 19th mega fight. What do you think about that, Tony?
Really? I'll believe that. Well, I'll believe that when I see it.
I had read something earlier today, but I didn't know it was official.
Yeah.
So it's been signed?
I don't know. They say agreed to terms.
On the last I saw, they had an quote unquote, an agreement in principle.
Yeah.
Well,
If anybody signed on the dotted line, but
let's
you
hope
know,
so.
that could be an FBI ploy to get the guy that Terrence is dealing with now, the big mobster dude, because he's supposedly managing Terrence Crawford now. He left Bob Arum to go with this dude that's got FBI heat on him, and he got a $5 million reward. Who knows? Maybe he's just going to turn the dude in and not have to fight. Get the $5 million. Anyway. Talked about Fury versus Joshua. Funny, you'd think you would see a lot of stories about like Nate Diaz's next move being leaked, but it must be just taking time off because there's not even a hint of what he's going to be making at this moment. Anderson Silva, Jake Paul tour has begun, the press tour. And there's a funny viral moment going around with Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Tom, but Anderson Silva is asking...
about his wife.
Yeah.
Anderson's wife at the barbecue.
Yeah. Anderson Silva's asking Chael Sonnen why he didn't go to the barbecue that he got invited to. And Chael, is taken off guard because, he never realized he was seriously being invited. He thought Anderson was fucking with him. So he says, "Oh, he didn't know you were serious, and I thought there was still the problem with your wife." He must have said something with with all this.
Yeah, well, yeah. Someone had said that I don't know, he was going to show up at the barbecue and slap Anderson's wife in the rear or something to that effect. Yeah.
So Anderson said, "Seriously, I want you to come to the barbecue," and Chael says, "In Brazil?" And Anderson says, No, here in America. In Brazil, a lot of people might want to kill you." Oh, great. So that's it there. Another tragic story. Elias Theodorou. I had no idea he even had cancer. He died at 34 years old.
I heard that. Always sad.
Not doing UFC stuff anymore, but he was actually the ring card boy for Invicta. A lot of female fighters remember him for that. But sad news. 34 years old is much too young for anybody, especially somebody that fit, an athlete. But we actually talked not too long ago about Mike Swick having cancer too. So just one of those things. Sometimes it comes with the territory. But, yeah. Tough stuff there. A lot of tributes went out on that one. He definitely was a nice guy on top of being a good fighter. So yeah, apparently Joshua has accepted terms for the third fight. That's all about that, I think. Works. I think that's about it. That is about it for us for this week. But we'll have some fights to talk about next week, and hopefully we'll have a better boxing schedule. Maybe just one or two big fights. And we'll have a Jesus fight of the week next week. We don't even have a Jesus fight this week. So it is what it is. Oh, and the Claressa Shields versus what's her name? I didn't realize that Claressa Shields fight Savannah Marshall, right? She's fighting. I didn't realize that fight was a rematch of one of their amateur.
For the one that was supposed to be over in England?
Yeah, it was one of their rematches for an amateur fight they had, and it's the last person to beat Claressa. And you would think Savannah Marshall would use that a lot. I saw some press conference material where they were drawing back and forth with each other, and she didn't use that once. That she's already beaten her. That's like the first tool you pull out of the bag, you would think. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But it got canceled or postponed, whatever. Pissed off Claressa pretty good. She was waiting for this one. As the queen died, you know. Saw the best meme the other day on that. On how everybody, like, you know, these progressives are all calling for, like, eat the rich, take their money and redistribute it. So there's like a cartoon drawing of somebody like in a rage yelling out "eat the rich," and then on the bottom there's the same cartoon drawing, but it's crying, and it says "R.I.P. Queen Elizabeth." So yeah, you can't square the two of them together. I just gotta say though, from watching some of the footage of all the funeral stuff and stuff that's been on TV and the little speeches here and there that Charles has had to do, that guy is the least enthusiastic person I've ever seen speak in my life. He is not going to inspire a single person in any speech he gives. Just total deadpan. You guys seen anything?
Well, at least he's got his first day on the job. Can you imagine waiting 73 years to start your job?
Yeah.
Never. That's strange. It's weird.
Yeah. And then of course everybody is highlighting the fact that the side chick is now queen. Side chick goals, you know.
Well,
that's another meme.
So this was me last week, because obviously I'm a well-spoken and mature individual. We all know that. I heard my mom talking to somebody, and they're like, no, because this person left this person, and this person this. And do you remember when this happened to this, and so-and-so was renouncing this? And I said, listen. I said, haven't you people even watched Coming to America? I mean, I've spent more time studying the royal family of Zamunda. I know Prince Akeem. And you know what? Prince Akeem renounced his throne on the subway in Queens. I mean, did that renouncement not count? Because, I mean, that was a full renounce. I mean, I felt he said I am no longer the Prince of Zamunda. I mean, that's okay. You renounced that throne, buddy. You're no longer the Zamundian prince. But next thing you know, he's, then doing a royal wedding, and with the heir to McDowell's. Speaking of McDowell's, they are opening one as a pop-up location about 20 minutes from my house, and yes, I will be attending. Mm-hmm. And yes, I will be taking selfies. Nice. So, I'm like, yeah, I learned all about this royalty shit from watching Coming to America. And my other question is, he bought the girl $500,000 earrings, $500,000 earrings, right?
Yeah.
And she's wearing them on the subway in Queens. That's already a stretch of the imagination. Then, after she gives them back to him, and an old lady goes, "If you're really a prince, I'll marry you," he hands her these earrings. A nice gesture. You don't think she'd make 10 feet before she got mugged? They showed early in the movie that as soon as he left his luggage out there, everybody stole all his shit.
Yeah, sometimes
these are things that keep me up at night.
Yeah, right.
The royal family of Zamunda.
Yeah, that's crazy. But it's just gonna be like a week and a half of mourning. I think they talked about it today. The line just to see Queen Elizabeth right now is 3 hours long, and I don't think you get to go to the bathroom during those 3 hours. You gotta wear a diaper or something. Just stay in that line. Ridiculous. But yeah, it's just baffling to me. Like, I can remember some of my favorite history lessons were in British royalty. So just think about all the people that were beheaded and all the scandals throughout all the kingdoms, and they're still doing this shit. They're still basing their fucking government partially is based off of this fucking monarchy. And now you got this guy who's like just a windbag with no personality. The king of England. He has all this influence. Must be nice. That's all I keep thinking. Must be nice. Just be born into that shit. I don't know. I guess I would think you'd have no motivation to really, do anything special. You're just born into it. Everything's handed to you. But I don't know. Diana was a little bit different. I think she was a little bit more like of an Elizabeth type. Because Elizabeth apparently, like, the big thing that they're talking about from what I've seen, that like her best quality is she just devoted her life to public service of the throne. I mean, you think about it, like, she volunteered basically to be in the public eye all the time. She's never going to be out of it. She still isn't out of it. She's in the coffin in the public eye. Oh, nuts. Yeah, so in one sense you say it must be nice, but in another sense, like, would you really want that, even with all the millions? Like, just be always in the public eye, nobody ever stops talking about you. Good or bad, mostly bad. Although I was really proud of CNN.
I'll tell you right now.
For once in my life, I was proud of CNN because during one of the marches, they talked about Philip, being the buddy of Epstein, or no, Prince Andrew. They're talking about being the Epstein's buddy, and so they said that's why he's not wearing his military uniform. It's like, yeah, talk about something big for once. Funny. So yeah, other than that though, it's pretty ridiculous to see, like, all this attention being paid to just basically something that's like a novel, but it's worth billions, freaking billions. And it means nothing, basically. A giant charitable organization that what does do anything with it. So much attention paid to these people. Ridiculous. that's my rant of the week. I will have probably a lot more to talk about next week when I have been to the promised land of Paul Spadafora's bar in Boston. That's what I see. I keep wanting to say Dana Rosenblatt. It's making me think of Vinny Paz.
Don't say that around Vinny.
Yeah. He ain't so dangerous. He's a fucking douchebag. We gotta get Vinny back on.
Yes.
Alright, guys. I windbagged enough myself.
Okay. Enjoy the fights this weekend. I think it's going to be closer than we think.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Take your word on it. Have a good weekend.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
Adios.